Meeting to order the Oregon City Library Board at 5:13. Present members are Maureen Cole, Don Wright, Jan Wallander, Eileen Sheridan, Dan Millard, and Laura Ingram. Did I get you, Don?
Yeah.
Don Wright, and Fred Haynes. So. Approval of the minutes.
Vote to accept the minutes as they stand.
Okay.
A second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. What do we got? Public comments. Linda, anything? Communication. Okay, that's what I thought, but I thought I'd check.
Okay, so I'm not. Did I send you guys my report?
A lot of things.
Yeah,
Yes.
you did.
Sent a lot of things.
Little two-page critter.
Whether you read it or not,
Yeah.
no big deal.
Director's report, statistical report. The only thing I didn't print out was the
Not
big 31-page architectural report.
And I think I actually have that we can this thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so just briefly, statistics are
Slow down.
not bad. There's DA, yay.
There's DA.
We're kind of holding our own on statistics, our events.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing some. What's kind of weird to think about is like the future of when we're under construction.
Mm-hmm.
Like how many events are going to be worth having and stuff. Or what our circulation is going to look like. You know what I mean? I was correcting some numbers for the budget thing that they already printed today that were wrong, and I was just thinking, it's great to have a goal for next year of like even higher circulation, but realistically, during construction, how realistic is that? So anyway, our statistics are okay right now.
I suppose you could plan events that would not be on site.
Yeah, like
Films
First
and-
Friday film, yeah, et cetera. Yeah, absolutely. We're probably really lean on those. Yeah.
Move over to the community center.
And the First Friday film series is still doing really well. We had about 40 people this last Friday. Tomorrow night is publishing, so kind of like self-publishing, as well as trying to get a publisher with John Williams. And then National Library Week is next week. And so I have this awesome little committee at work that they're just like really into making sure things are organized and things don't get overlooked. And because, National Library Week, every other year I kind of like, oh yeah, we better do something. And every other year I'm like, no, we better not. So we're having a system-wide, a link-wide Foods for Fine starting next week. And that's one of those few things that we actually all agreed to a long time ago. And we're trying to get more organized so that we do more things together and actually share more PR and share more policies and get more in alignment, which I think is a really good thing. But it's moving away from, of course, a mentality that's been kind of hard to break away from. So anyway, Food for Fines. And my staff loves doing that, but it's always like they're really worried about the horrible stuff that people bring them, so because people try to get, so we're trying to just have a little bit more out there ahead of time on what really will work and what won't work. And then they've taken care of setting something up for National Library Workers Day, which is on Tuesday, and all I have to do is go to the store and pick it up and look like I'm doing well. And then they're also going to be promoting Drop Everything and Read, just kind of very subtly, but they've made pins. And so that's DEAR, DEAR, which is kind of cute. So they'll be doing that while I'll be heading off to Oregon Library Association down in Eugene. That's next week. And then on April 23rd, Peter Sears is the new Oregon Poet Laureate. And he's coming with Andres Berger Kiss, who came last year when Paul Ann Peterson was there, and Lawson Inada, the former Oregon Poet Laureate. And Andres is this really super amazing, older, like in his 80s, man who was like, I think he was a physicist or something for his career, but he's always been connected to poetry. He was born in like Hungary, moved to Holland, raised in Colombia, and moved to the United States speaking no English when he was about 18 years old.
Wow.
And it's just super incredible. So his wife just died, which is super, super sad. So we're going to make a little event out of it. So I'm going to take those two older guys to dinner. And I just found out today that Jim Shepke, the former state librarian, who is helping Peter Sears with his Facebook page, is going to come up for that event. And my son is going to come film it for us so that Peter Sears can post it on his Facebook page. It's just going to be, I'm just really looking forward to it because Andres is amazing. Like last year when he read, he blew everybody away. I mean, he was like, we were entranced. And it was like Paul Ann was great, La Seninata was good, but Andres blew us away. And I mean, he just has quite the dramatic ability to read. And so I'm looking forward to seeing him. So that is an awesome event. And then going into May, we will eventually get something figured out on May the 4th Be With You, which is the, May the Force Be With You thing for Star Wars. Star Wars. Huh, what is that? Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, you don't know anything about that. Yeah. And then we've rearranged our story times because now we have a new story time person. We've hired a few new people. So we have a new story time person who does like 3 of our story times. And she's also the children's librarian at Mount Angel and is truly a force of nature. So it's always interesting when a big personality moves into a small group. She's got a big personality. It's great. So, and a lot of experience. And then we've also hired a new library assistant 3, who replaces Sue Adams' position in reference. And this is kind of our evolution to reference being a little bit less of the traditional reference and more of where reference needs to be. Less reference, more adult services. And she is, her name is Gina Bacon. She comes to us from Hillsborough Library. She is, let's just say that I can brag about kind of snagging her within the library community. So she's a good catch. So I'm really, really excited to have her. And if I can keep her at the library, I think she'll grow into our new library really, really well. So we'll see. I think, all of us, if we can make it through the construction, we're going to learn an awful lot. And I think we'll come out the other side providing like really great service too, because it's going to be a process. Anyway, so the budget, I promised you copies of the budget, and I've got them right here. I think I've made enough. There you go. You can pass it down. So this is the budget as it appears in the budget book that gets published by Finance. It just takes up a couple pages. And let me just point out very, very quickly that the chart on page 87 at the bottom, those circulation numbers are like wrong. So the annual circulation in 2012 may have been 502,000, but in 2013 they were not 880,000. Mm-hmm. And it was my error, which I didn't catch until later. And then I had to correct with the state library statistics and everything else. Yeah, they were more like 448,000. And so as I said, going forward, like 2014 won't even be done until this summer. It's like 2014-15. So I'll just plug those in when they come. So the goal of like 900,000 is completely ridiculous.
It's just a placeholder.
Yeah, for like the future, a couple years down the road.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just so you know, everything else is like more or less in alignment. And they're fixing that so that they'll probably put a little, I don't know how they'll fix it, but they'll fix it. So, on page 1 is kind of a summary. You know, that 5 million figure that you see like proposed by NEM, remember that's 2 years. And so it's all added up. And it balances with the stuff on the back too, but there's more of a breakdown in the back. So what we've tried to do is increase certain things like maintenance, materials went up a little bit, operations, you know, we've tried to increase those, not really knowing what it's all going to look like. And you'll see that the 2016-17, that would be the first year we would be open part of the year in the new library. Is that right? And then, yeah. So, you know, we're just kind of estimating. And remember then that $400,000 payment kicks in. And that's down below under principal and interest. Yeah. So.
And is that, was that based on the bonds
Yeah.
having finally
Yeah.
settled in on what the interest rate's going to be?
Yeah. Yeah, those are, yeah, we've got the bonds. We have a fixed rate. I can't remember what it is. It's a nice low rate. We got in at a good time. That really helps a lot, that our interest is reasonable. However, $400,000 is a lot of money out of like about a $2 million budget, you know? So there goes almost 1/4 of your budget annually. 1/2 of it goes towards staffing, and the rest of it is everything else, basically. So,
And then the 400,000 that was in contract services, this biennium, that's goes
Yeah.
away because that was all the.
yeah, that goes away, and that kind of was always my kind of space saver for being able to pay for a bond, you know? So, you know, the problem is, of course, we're going to be in a bigger space and all that, you know, it's fine for now. I mean, that we stuck that money aside. It should work. It's just gonna, wouldn't want our budget to be reduced. If our budget was reduced, then that would make, you know, we'd have to cut back somewhere. Yeah. Which is, you know, kind of, we're really fortunate we're in this good a shape. This makes it possible. But, I mean, we've got a 20-year bond. So, you know, I'm not going to be around to deal with this when it will turn into a problem someday. There's, you know, staff just is expensive. But we're all going to have problems someday with that, you know, because staff costs continue to grow, and there's not much we can do about that. So, anyway, for now, we're in pretty good shape. So this is the budget, and this is what will come before the City Commission and the Budget Committee next Monday night. And what's been happening is that Finance Department does such a great job that typically within like an hour it's approved. You know, because the Budget Committee is really well educated on what we're doing, and that's what's been going, that's our past history. They always reserve like 2 nights just in case, but you know, we don't anticipate any problems. So that's any questions on the budget? Okay. Our district income is continuing to go up a little bit every year.
That's based on population, right?
Yeah, it's a very complicated formula.
Yeah.
It's based on numbers. It's based on, well, there's a formula for in-city and a formula for out-of-city.
Yeah.
But yeah. And we have, there goes Katie, Savior Katie. We have a lot of people, so that helps us. So. Okay, so that's
Okay.
budget. Okay, so,
Foundation, Liza, and selection.
yeah, so at one of our last meetings, we a while ago, we asked if there would be somebody be a liaison to the foundation, and Eileen accepted. But since then, she has got this fantastic new job, and her priority, very appropriately, is the library board. So she sadly had to say, I have to give up the liaison position to the Library Foundation. So I need to turn to the rest of you and ask if there is anybody else who could go to, when is the meeting? The last Monday?
Last Monday.
No,
it's the fourth Monday.
The fourth Monday, typically, of each month. It's usually at 6 p.m. Or about an hour.
A little plus.
Yeah,
About an hour.
yeah. So. I see no hands shooting
I
up.
don't really want to volunteer to do it, because, but.
You're already on the
maybe-
building committee, which
Yeah.
is a
You're
big,
on-
big
But
commitment.
I'm wondering if that's maybe something I should do because of the coordination that we're going to need between the foundation and the building project for,
That wouldn't hurt.
yeah. It's just that I don't want to take on another
I
meeting.
could see DA doing that.
Yeah, I could see that would actually be helpful in a lot of respects, DA.
Yeah. I'm afraid you're right.
I think we have a volunteer.
So I'm a reluctant volunteer, but if anyone else wants to do it, I'd be glad to have them do it.
Yeah, hearing none. Yeah,
All right.
okay, well, thank you. And what we also could do is, we could maybe set up a meeting with Karen Martini, the chair, just to kind of bring you up to speed. And if you can make it, great, and if you can't make it, we'll just make sure that
Oh,
you're
well.
kept informed.
Yeah. Typically, Mondays are good for me, so.
Okay. Well, you are wonderful. Thank you very, very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so the next little thing that I need help with is, so actually Karen suggested that I create a committee from my stakeholder support groups to help me with creating some kind of groundbreaking event, which could be big or not big. I'm not, tonight I'm thinking not big,
Right.
that's just where my energy is, But so Linda Orson from the Friends is going to help. Harriet from the Foundation and Friends. Was it Brian Johnson? Was it that also offered from the Foundation? I think Brian Johnson from the Foundation, who used to be a board member.
Right.
And so I was wondering if I could get somebody from this committee. Thank you, Don Wright.
Thank you.
I don't know what work I'll put you up to doing, but we'll
Well,
talk about it
Are you any
and
good
figure
at
it
hugging
out.
trees?
Class clown. What?
Can you hug trees?
I can hug trees.
And I'm happy if you need extra help.
Okay, thanks.
If you needed somebody.
Okay, awesome. It's easier when it's just like a snapshot of one thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of limited.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dawn, Laura, and Fred.
I'm happy to help
You're on the
with
second tier. Of,
I'm happy to help with ideas around the tree or sort
ooh,
of
ooh.
things that are for the community, immediate community and kids.
Yeah. Okay. Because probably what we'll end up doing is like more than one event. And one of the events we have may be like say goodbye to the trees event. And that might be really helpful on that. Or say goodbye to the playground equipment event.
I'm with the tree.
I think somebody's going to need to steal that in the darkness of night.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
think we
hear
should
you.
give it the whale on the
Yeah.
beach.
For a challenge.
Gotta be.
Yeah.
But only if we can get, what's his face to cover it.
And Mo, you're still envisioning that to be coincidental in June with the kind of the start of the preliminary site work?
I don't know when. That's a really good question. I don't know when the specific actual groundbreaking needs to be because,
Oh, yeah,
we
don't
don't
know
have
that. We haven't
permits
picked that.
and everything yet in June. So it may be more strung out than we think
It
because
may
there's
be.
some preliminary work that could be done early, but then when people see something going on, so.
Yeah.
We maybe ought to talk about just what we know about schedule at this point, just because it's coincidental to the idea of groundbreaking or those opening events.
That runs perfectly right into the building expansion report.
does,
Is that
yeah.
okay with you, Fred? Chair
Yeah.
Haynes?
Yes.
Okay.
That's fine.
Why don't
Okay.
you,
I didn't clear this with you earlier, but I did run
It's okay.
copies of the budget to,
Charlie told me. I knew what you were up to.
okay. Yeah, all right, good. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do, last time you saw, a month ago, you saw a fairly thin set of documents that talked about, kind of what, and that was our schematic design.
Correct.
Okay. And we had a budget for that, and we said, we made it, we look good. Okay. Now we have that with added thickness.
I didn't bring the
The spec book
The
is
spec
3
book
inches
is-
thick.
yeah.
Yeah, and getting
Yeah.
thicker.
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So, here we go. So we've now got the schematic design, or the design development set Maureen has, and it's here for you all to look at a little more in detail afterwards, if you like. And our contractor has come back with his first design development estimate.
There's another one.
And so, let me just talk about budget, and then the fun stuff is talking about the schedule. So,
Okay.
you'll see on the first page of this summary budget, there's 2 pages here of the overall building budget, and you'll see that there's at this point, a $6.8 million construction budget. And at the bottom of the second page, you see a $10,504,300 number. That's our total project budget. And there's everything in between listed.
Right.
We've moved some money around because things that were intended to be maybe done by an independent third party have now been rolled into the construction budget, which is, we're going to like that a lot because it means we've got an integrated building, not a bunch of competition. And then there's a little bit of money so far. $4,300 has fallen into our laps. Well, not without some work, but a little bit of money from the sustainability charrette that we did on Energy Trust. And then $1,800 as a reimbursement for the solar assessment that we were required to do, whether we got reimbursed or not. So in the future, as you see these budget updates, you're going to see some money coming in to the budget, and that's going to help us as we go along. So now the bad news is that on the third page is the contractor's estimate summary, and you'll see the highlight down there is $7.5 million.
Okay.
And so we're 700,000 over our budget at this time. And then I have to jump to schedule for a moment. We're right on schedule for having received this estimate. And our schedule calls for this design development cost estimate. And then the next line item on our schedule is 2 weeks of aligning what we call the DD package with the budget. So we already have our first value engineering meeting established for Tuesday, and the team, and it's the entire team, feeds value engineering ideas back to the estimator, and we take a look then at what's important to keep and what can be shaved here and there until we can get the budget and the documents aligned. And then and then at the same time, the architects are just now getting started on the construction documents that are going to take clear to June to get completed. So we want them to do this one time around and not have to go back and start doing a lot of redesign.
Correct.
So that's our urgency right now. So that's where we are. It's not this is not giving anybody heartburn except maybe Mo, because the rest of us expected it, and it's it's already been programmed into our schedule. This is exactly what we do next. So
Correct.
so it isn't a surprise. We know generally that's what we got to do. Now, 700,000 is a big chunk relative to a $6 million construction budget. So we'd have a lot of work to do. Half of it, I'm going to tell you right now, is in the mechanical system. We have a beautiful mechanical system they would love to have us have in the building. but it may require some massaging or some variations.
What
and
does
that,
mechanical system mean?
well, that's our heating and air conditioning
Okay.
and plumbing and so forth.
Lights and all that.
Plumbing is almost, I mean, it's a couple of restrooms and a little kitchenette thing, and there's not much plumbing to worry about. Except that a couple of things have fallen into our lap from the city, such as the water mains in Jefferson and 6th are not large enough to support the library building fire system, the sprinkler system. That's the water demand. So we're being asked by the city, and we are budgeted to, which is adding as part of our cost overrun, is to go out in the street and replace those water mains, upsize them. So we have to do all of 6th and I think part of half of Jefferson. Well, that's, that's a new thing. And maybe we're going to get some money back from the city, SDC funds, the system development charges, but that's generally not the way they spend the SDC money. So we don't know what we're going to get there, but that's an issue. And I mean, that's a biggie, and we're not sure we're going to get around that particularly. So those are kind of things that have come into the project for cost now that we have to work on moving the money around from some other place, and so something else might suffer. So next step then, like I said, is to get this realigned so that the architects have a clear shot at getting a set of construction documents out that make sense for us come bid day. And so for schedule then, the next step after that alignment is we get to what we call a 50% construction document package, and we get another estimate again from the contractor from PNC. And there it is again, another 2 weeks to realign that in case that's still a problem, because we have what we call scope creep. And it always happens that we want it a little nicer and a little nicer, and we the budget or the construction committee have to squeeze our architect's neck a little bit and get them back in line, and that kind of thing. So all part of the normal process for doing this kind of GMP work. At the end of May, there's a conjunctive kind of, we're going to know for sure where we stand with the site review at the city. They have until the end of May to do that with us. And we'll know whether we have any appeals coming out. If the neighborhood is going to appeal the whole site plan because they don't like the slide or something, and on and on. So we have all that at that point, plus we have the end of our 50% construction document review and budget review by the end of May. So the first week of June, when we meet again, we're going to really know where we are and how good or bad everything's going to be. You'll know a lot. There's going to be a lot to know at that time. So, and at that time, and that's what we were talking about earlier, we won't be ready with the construction documents to go out and bid all the subcontract work, but we will be the contractor would like to be out there starting to do some things like realigning the electrical feed to the old Carnegie and setting up the new power feed to the building we're going to use to save. This saves us money because we're going to use the permanent power transformer. PG is going to get it ready for us. And we're going to have that all on site and ready to go, and we'll be working on permanent power throughout the job. So that's going to be a good thing. And then they'll be realigning the water line that goes into the Carnegie, and that'll be set up so that it'll be a quick connect to the new building when the time comes, and it'll be all out of the construction way. And there's a maple tree that needs to go away, so that'll be one of the first things that we're going to be talking about trying to deal with for an event. And the slides and the swing, I'm not sure if that's going away right then or not.
I'm not sure either.
Yeah, that
That's
one.
I'd like to clarify that before
Yeah.
we get people upset.
Yeah, so so we're not quite sure about those things, but this is work that we can see happening in June. And the building permits, overall won't be ready yet, but the city will be very flexible, we think. Well, we've been promised they'll be very flexible about these kinds of little things.
Is it your opinion, since there's going to be some kind of action on the site in June, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
That would be a time for some kind of an event? Is that too soon?
Well, I think might be time for some kind of like goodbye to the trees events, once
Yeah,
we
okay,
know when that
right.
is, or goodbye to the playground equipment. This is what I think today. I could be convinced otherwise completely, but I'd kind of rather wait until it's like we're really got all of our permits behind us and everything else before we do like this is groundbreaking. I mean, we want to have like the go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Start going into
I agree.
basalt and all
I
that
agree.
stuff.
Yeah.
Why is the arborist more? What's the increase?
We didn't think we had any more work to do, and we found out that we need to have an arborist on call throughout the construction project.
So you need someone on call
Because you gotta
Yeah.
trim stuff or whatever.
Okay.
Right,
Yeah.
and so we're debating whether some of this trimming and limbing up can happen this year or next year, and because the building will interfere with some of the canopy. And
Yeah.
so even though the trees will stay, they need to be limbed up.
Yeah.
And, So that's just kind of a development thing, and so we put plenty of money into that new line item to make sure that it is covering his ongoing cost. Looking farther forward, we think that we'll establish a GMP that's the guaranteed maximum price from the contractor, about the 1st of July. And the real construction, the big construction probably wouldn't even get started until 1st of August. But we've got that window of opportunity to do some preliminary work. And that's exciting because and we need to coordinate with the foundation because it does start to generate interest. Things are starting to happen, and that's when they're going to want to have events.
Yeah, well, that's part of the groundbreaking is they were hoping to kind of like jump on board that and,
So I guess first thing I'll do is go back over this with the foundation the next meeting.
that'd be great.
Okay.
That'd be super.
All right, I'm not trying to soft pedal our budget situation, but we are anticipating that this is what happens, and that we'll be spending the time with the consultants and the designers and the contractors to get our numbers aligned. That's the job that is really important to get done right now. So
Yeah, it is.
okay, so that's.
Thank you.
Good job, Dana. Thank
But
you.
thank you.
I'd encourage you all to kind of take a closer look. One thing I do want to say about it is look at the landscape or the civil drawing that shows the most recent park layout. I think it's really cool. I think they've got a great, and it's going to be one area I'm going to make sure they try not to take any money out of is that site development. I think they've got the park really well allocated
Don, I don't know how you
for layout. So that's a good one to look at. And then Mo's got some changes that have been made
That's what I didn't do.
kind of on her behalf for the staff inside the building, and so that what the layout looks like now inside the building is a little different than what you saw before. Yeah, but no change in the actual layout of the building
Okay.
overall. The footprint's still the same.
Yeah, I have to tell Mo she can't have gold light fixtures.
Okay, darn it.
Yeah.
I always wanted those. So inside, Dennis Humphreys was out last week, which was great because we really took a close look at,
Yeah, it's quite
the
nice.
program.
Yeah, feel free.
No,
and we decided to move the internet computers were going to stay where they are now in the reference room with a different kind of layout, of course. We decided to move the audio visual and the holds in there because the architects had not provided a good place for the holds, and we do a lot of holds. We do a ton of holds. Holds are really important to us, and we think they'll continue to be really important to us. So we needed like a really nice range of book shelves for those. So those will go in the reference room, the existing reference room, and then audiovisual, like DVDs, is one of the first things people shoot for when they come into the library. I can't tell you how many people just go to Holds and AV, that's it. So that's what is going to be in the existing reference room and within like really close reach of the front doors. And the internets are going to go upstairs where the AV was, next to the teen area. So I have not yet seen a new layout of what that's going to look like. It's going to mean that all staff are going to have to be like really literate on helping people with internet, which is like A-okay with me. Because we have some people now who will like say, oh, go ask so-and-so about that, you know, and like, really? That's not that great, you know? But it's been very contained, and so it was pretty easy to do that. So I think that'll work out pretty well, actually. And then we've had more meetings than you could shake a stick at, but we got together with some technology people today from the city and from the library network, and we're just trying to make sure we like account for all the technology we want and where we're going to put it. So for instance, and then I was showing the friends the plans, and the microfilm reader, for instance, we had it in the reference room when the internet computers were going to be there, because it's somewhat darker of a room, a little bit darker, because you need like, it's easier to read that thing if it's darker.
Correct.
So now it's kind of like, oh great, now where do we put it? Because the front reading room where I would stick it is pretty bright, you know? And we're gonna at least work in automatic shades to start with, although it sounds like that could be one of the first things to go. But anyway, you know, we just need to figure out where every little piece of equipment is going to be, so that not only is there a place for it, but that if we decide to move things around a little bit, we have some flexibility in the future too.
Yeah, having the power in the right spot is extremely important, and not ending up with the building built and all of a sudden.
You know, it's like nothing is ever going to stay the same.
Mhm.
So you want to have that flexibility.
That's correct. You do.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I think you just have to like realize that you're going to put in as many as you can,
Mhm.
and that there may
Yeah.
come a point in time where, you know, it's not in the right place, but it's, you know, you can't have like one giant outlet for your floor, for instance, you know. You've got to space them out. So
Everything plugged into it.
so we'll meet again with on Friday with technology people and the consultant expert in IT, and go over the plans to make sure that we're all on the same page with that. So that's that. And then the other thing that's been going on is the conversation about the playground equipment. And since this is located in a park, and I did go to Westmoreland, and I was just so impressed with the beautiful job that they have done with the natural park there. And I was somewhat surprised because they have these big peeled logs that kids were climbing all over, which are super cool. But then they have these like skinny peeled sticks. There's all these sticks. And it just kind of cracked me up because we're like so safety oriented. And I looked at those and I'm like, you're going to poke an eye out that thing, you know, put that thing down. And there's sticks everywhere. It's really
Because they build
funny.
shelters and structures with them.
Yeah, but there's
So-
loose ones too, I believe. Anyway,
How else are you supposed to have sword fights? How else are you supposed to have sword fights? You gotta-
yeah, or like whip your brother or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know that's what I use them for.
Been there.
But it
Done
was really cool. So we talked to the landscape architect and said, you know, since the neighborhood association doesn't like the idea of a plastic slide, what about putting in like a tree stump tower instead? Yes.
So over the past week, there was a posting at OC Parents, Oregon City Parents, on Facebook. Have you heard this already?
A little bit.
Okay, yeah. So there was a posting of the question posed by a member of the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association to the larger Oregon City parent group. And the question was, what do you prefer, a metal slide or a plastic slide? And what do you prefer bark chips and rubber mats. The overwhelming response of comments on that thread were that parents in Oregon City actively preferred a plastic slide and that they actively preferred rubber mats, pointing out that it allows accommodation for people with all types of physical challenges to access a play area as opposed to bark chips. So I thought that was really interesting and reaffirmed some of the thoughts and conversations that I've heard from other people as well. So
Thanks for that. That is really interesting
It's good news.
information.
It's good news, yeah. with
So,
bark chips.
Because,
overwhelmingly,
overwhelmingly, okay.
there was
that's-
maybe one preference for a metal slide.
Okay. Because the thing about metal slides is, as you know, I mean, all material heats up, but metal heats up very, very high. And there's not really going to be a ton of shade in that particular area. You know, there's not now, nor will there be in the future. You know, we'll plant more trees, but, you know, will it shade the slide appropriately? Probably not. So, you know, there's regulations about having metal slides, and if you have them, they must be shaded, you know, whatever is appropriate. So, you know, yeah, we're getting a lot of resistance on that, as well as the size of the swing set and this and that. And we're somewhat limited by space, but
I'm curious if there's any way, and if this is a conflict of interest, but to do a similar survey of park users, of their,
how would you do that?
I don't know, ask people. I mean, just the way we survey, where do you want the library to be located?
Throw it
when
up
we're
on
looking at-
Facebook, get some kind of results.
I
You can
wonder
post it as
I
a
wonder if
question.
I wonder if
mean-
the parks website has a Facebook connection.
I don't know.
Or, I mean, I think it's just interesting. There's different ways, social media wise, to get people's responses. And I think a wider range of people use that space, and we're
Yeah.
not able to tap them all. But I think there can be strong voices, but I think, you know, casting a broad net for the people who actually use that is important.
Within a block or two of there, there's another little, it's small park.
Tot
but it
Park.
has, yeah,
Tot
Well, it's directly,
play stuff.
Yeah.
As well
It's-
as the church
it's
lot.
directly kitty corner.
As well as the
Yeah.
St. John's.
And the
Yeah.
thing about the Todd Park is, you know, it's for tots, and so they people see this as for kids a little bit older, and so they want things to be sized appropriately and all that, not the little stuff, and that's what I hear.
I think if we can brainstorm ways to find out what other people feel,
Okay.
I think that'd be really useful. Because I know people with a 3-year-old who try to, you know, that wants to climb up the metal slide.
It's terrifying.
It's
Yeah. Well, I think they were okay with an 8-foot slide. That's pretty much been decided on. That has to come down in size, but it was the material that it was made out of. That was the sticking point.
I'll share with you the results.
That'd be
where I can
great.
find that.
Yeah.
It's a closed group, but I have access to
Okay.
maybe sharing it.
Oh, maybe I'm on that too.
You
I haven't been
you
doing a
might.
lot of
It was posted last week.
Facebooking. Yeah.
It's Oregon City Parents.
Okay. So Don, did you have a comment?
Well, I was wondering if the larger neighborhood association group, I mean, this is one neighborhood association here that is tooth and jowl with our project, but there are other neighborhood associations who also use parks. And I was wondering if that might be a way to get the information out, just that idea.
Other people do use that, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Might come into our neighborhood and look at the structure we have. Right across the street from my house, actually.
Which park do you live across the street from?
It's a private park.
Private park.
Really?
It's owned by the HOA. That doesn't negate the fact that people from all over use it. Much to the chagrin of some people down the way, but I'm not about to police it. I don't care. But
Yeah.
you know, if they care, they need to just fence it off and put a
Yeah.
code system
Yeah.
in there
Uh-huh.
instead of whining about it. But
Right.
it has a pretty nice play structure that's used quite a bit. by a number of ages. Even adults
Yeah.
get up there and with their kids to help them down. So it's a nice play structure.
Is it made out of metal?
It's got plastic slides, and it's got some of the parallel bars things. And some of it's metal, and some of it's the plastic, and it's got a little tube
Yeah,
to climb
this
through.
is
And,
probably going to be a swing set and a slide.
yeah.
And part of that is at the neighborhood's request, and part of that is like PrAC said, you know,
You have to replace.
you have to at least replace this. And there's really not room for a lot more. And we got some ideas of other things that might fit in if you went smaller than a 10-foot A-frame swing set. But, you know, this is like a lot of work on a very small portion, in my mind, of
What's the square
project.
footage of that area, Don, where that park
It's
is?
an important part, but it's,
I don't remember. I'm sorry. It's pretty small.
Yeah, it's pretty
You know,
small.
Yeah, so it's,
Yeah.
I don't know the square
Ours is
footage.
in a little circular area.
This is a little bit more square, but, you know, with the fall off, the safety limitations, where, you know, it's sort of,
Yeah,
you're sort of stuck with.
yeah.
I think what's unfortunate is that it is a small part of the project, but it's a very visible one in that it is right by the entrance. And
Yeah.
I think it's, you know, that defines a lot of the space and the building aesthetically.
yeah, and aesthetically, you want it to look good because of that, you know? And it would be, I mean, I understand that bark dust looks more natural, but bark dust also goes everywhere. And bark dust is really high in maintenance, is what it is that somebody has to rake it like constantly.
It is, and yeah, it's not a, yeah, animals can use it and it gets tracked all over and kids will throw it all over and all kinds of stuff.
I think the argument that people with physical challenges can use the
I think
space
that's a
is
really
huge
huge
I think that
piece.
trumps
part.
everything.
I
If
think
I
that
had a
trumps
child
everything,
who was
I
wheelchair
agree.
bound, I would really want that opportunity for them to interact
Yeah.
with the space.
There's not much they can do to interact, though. They can, you know, bring their wheelchair into it and play with other kids, I guess. But we won't have like a accessible swing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
kind of unfortunate. I don't, but maybe down the road, I don't know. Because I was suggesting like some interactive panels or something that could be put up. That like went nowhere rapidly.
Yeah, okay.
So anyway, ongoing conversation. So you guys were able to view the
Yes.
presentation?
Yeah, it was very
Okay.
good. That was a nice presentation.
Great.
Yeah.
It seemed to go over very
She
well.
sent
And
it to you, so you have it.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
okay, other building questions?
Briefly at work. Thank you for all your hard work
Yeah.
on it.
DA, thank
Thanks,
you very
DA
much.
is amazing.
Huge.
DA is so helpful, you wouldn't believe it.
Oh, I get to sit back and just say things. That's-
And thank God he does.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's great. He says some things I can't say sometimes. It's good.
Besides, it's
We're
fun
a good
to spend
team.
somebody else's money.
Yeah, right.
And it's not your project, you can just say what you want.
Communication.
Communications. Linda?
If you don't know yet. Linda, hi.
Hi.
Monthly, yay Mo, yay team. Yay, yay. Pretty soon we'll be into it. So of course, welcome, thanks DA for accepting that, because it's really important that the foundation and the library board, we have such a common interest, and we want to make it all work. And when our small group was planning the events, you know, just the timing of the events and what to do, it just overwhelmingly came to us that we need to be at the groundbreaking. And so all of our kickoff events are going to be at the groundbreaking. And so whatever it is, we're going to have a big part with you. So whoever in our group is with you, we're going to do more behind the scenes too. So, and probably some of the funding too, I'm sure. We haven't talked about it much, but so that was kind of what I was hinting at last month, because we hadn't presented it to the board yet, so I didn't want to, you know, tell you the whole world before they knew. And then we're going to do a hard hat tour at the appropriate time, and that's going to be one of our fundraising things. And Pam had given us lots of ideas for a couple hard hat pick out the room things that she's been to. And then we were also, our third event that we were talking about was going to be the grand opening timing, perhaps like the night before, and both the night before grand opening thing and the hard hat thing will be invitees, will be our major donors. So that's what we were talking about for those things. We're getting moving on. We've got lots of irons in the fire, lots of little committees working right now. Brian came and talked to us about investment funds and other ways of holding money for the good of the library. So we're considering that in the next few months. At the last minute, I got called to go to a meeting yesterday, and it was talk to the funders. I just handed Mo a few things. And there were people from different commissions, art, heritage, and cultural commissions that give money to people in Oregon. And so we had all their websites and contacts and their granting funding timelines for the year and stuff. So I gave Mo all that stuff, and she's already on it. She knew most of it anyway, so it would have been a good waste of time for her to go to that meeting. But it was good for me because it made me think about a lot of other things. And so a couple things. We're going to get there. We're keep working. Thank you for your work.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thanks.
Is there anything else from the board?
Wow.
Anything, Mo?
I'm sure I'm forgetting stuff.
Okay.
The Oregon Library Association, I am going to apply for Preserve Oregon Heritage Grant for the stairs and a few other things that we're doing in the Carnegie.
Mm-hmm.
That letter of intent goes out next week.
Okay.
Started talking to a grant writer.
Okay. Just a follow-up piece on the last meeting when I said send that application for my wife. She didn't have it ready for me to bring here, but she was going to bring it to you.
Excellent. I'd
So-
love to meet her.
Yeah, she'll bring it to her.
Excellent.
So I asked her again tonight before do you have it ready? Because she was going to. And actually, it was me, I wouldn't want it in a meeting because I'd lose it in all my other meeting stuff anyway, so,
There you go.
yeah.
Now that we've got staff hired, we can go back to like looking at volunteer stuff and start building that core of volunteers in the library. So should be,
So Linda, I
I'll
survived.
call her right away. Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
There's nothing else? Adjourn this meeting at 6 o'clock.